Welcome to On Texas Football. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by two coaches, Bob Shipley and Bryan Erwin, both successful, very successful high school head coaches back in the day. Also spent some time in the college ranks, both of them. Appreciate you guys being here with me. We're going to talk a little Longhorns in this off week, the bye week. Of course, it's never a bye week for coaches. You think it might be, but the brain is turning the entire time. Guys, it's also the week before OU, which, as you guys both know, is a different animal as well. But let's start with a little recap of what you saw maybe on Saturday, some positives. And I'm just going to throw it out to you guys. 26 of 31 for 324, 2 touchdowns. The ball really never, ever in harm's way the entire game, in my opinion. Quite a performance for young Arch Manning, even though Manning not likely to be the starter heading into OU. What did y'all think of Arch on Saturday? I want to see which coach takes the bait first. What do you got, man? What do you got, guys?
Well,
nobody jump in too heavy. Maybe you're not as excited as I was with what I saw.
With the state of the running back situation, I'm a proponent of the first time, let's go with 2 quarterbacks in the backfield. Let's see what happens. Because I'm telling you what, Arch I was in the stadium. He looked good. He's in control. He's calm in the pocket. He's scanning. He's working it from right to left to right. Deep balls, intermediate throws, checking it down, taking care of the ball. He was fun to watch. He was relaxed. He was cool. There were a couple of drops, things like that, but love the way he's playing. I know if we don't fumble the ball just right outside the red zone on our second series going in, we're going to go at 14-0. The game's a rout, but we did. And we've got, problems there with turning the ball over, and those things I'm sure we'll talk about, and along with some other problems. But I think it's a rout. If we don't fumble right there, we go in and score, possibly make it 14-0. Coach Levy can't go 4 corners on us like he did. He went 4 corners on us. It was a basketball game, and he went 4 corners on us and tried to slow it down as much as he could. He did a great job. He did a fantastic job. I've never seen a coach manage a game the way Coach Levy managed that game to keep them in at 14-6 late in the third. And hats off to him.
Yeah, Bob, what did you think of Arch Manning?
Well, I think you guys described it perfectly. There's no doubt he was dialed in. I wonder, I thought maybe that Coach Sark would maybe reel him in a little bit this week and make him check down a little bit more, but I don't know that he did. And I also felt like that once we fumbled the ball and we started pressing a little bit, and I don't know, it was a while before Sark ever got in a groove again, play call. It just felt like we were out of sync completely. And then you got holdings and you got jumping off sides and, drop passes and, the things just start snowballing. It's obvious that some of the guys weren't dialed in, but some of those guys wasn't Arch Manning. He was very dialed in and had an incredible game. And it was funny to hear Sark talk to him after the game in the interview, and he said, this guy's 38 or 41 or whatever. I don't remember what his stats was, but 340 yards, whatever. And I'm chewing him out the whole game, whatever, and that's what happened. He throws a great touchdown pass. And then the camera goes, Coach Erwin, I don't know if you saw it on the TV you saw the recording of it, but it goes to him meeting Sark on the sideline. Sark's letting him have it.
Sark said on Monday that one of the reasons he was getting on to Arch, he goes, look, we're going to coach him hard. And I thought this would be a point for you guys. He said on the 2 quarterback sneaks, he said on both of them, Arch got up with the ball inside the end zone, and he was yelling at him through the helmet communication, stay down so the referee can actually see where the ball is and where your body is. He goes, that's a freshman or a redshirt freshman that's never started before. He's used to a high school game where high school refs just do whatever. And anyways, I thought that was pretty funny. He's like indicative of that. I got to ask you, Bob and Bryan, real quick before we move on. I'll start with you, Bob. Does Arch Manning remind you of anybody? Or is he kind of an interesting prospect at this point in his career?
I've heard some comparisons. I don't know that there's not anybody that just stands out to me. He's got it all. I mean, he's got wheels. He's got patience. He'll sit in there and throw it at people in his face. He could take the hit. He could drop the dime, and he could throw the rope. I mean, you put together a quarterback that seemingly has it all. And you send it off to the factory, you get Arch Manning. Really.
Bryan, what do you think?
I really never thought about it. When you said it, I was just kind of racking my brain to see if anything popped in. And, the first one popped in with Troy Aikman. The second one was John Elway. He's got such a compact throwing. He carries it. And both those guys, they were very, very compact in the way they threw. They're very disciplined the way they carried it in their platform. And then the ball came out really, really quick and efficiently. There's no wasted motion. Guys, you turn on TV and you watch NFL guys all over the place. You watch college guys all over the place. And the ball goes from here and it goes down below their waist. And then it goes back up here. And then it comes out like a missile. But those aren't the guys I want. That long, slow release, that's what separates, I think, Arch and the John Elways and the Troy Aikman type guys. Dan Marino. I mean, those guys can release the football, and Arch has that.
Y'all are cracking me up because y'all don't. Bob's not thinking one, and you're thinking of two guys that are in the Hall of Fame. So that's pretty high cotton, right? All right, we'll move on because, believe it or not, I got to say this: we don't think we're going to see Arch Manning in 2 weeks. It's going to be Quinn Ewers, and this has been Quinn Ewers' team from the outset, and we'll talk about him. But first, I want to hit on Jaden Blue. Bryan, you were at the game. Bob, I know you were watching with us and did that. What do you do with the running back that fumbles twice in a game like that? I mean, Sark benched him essentially in the second half after that fumble. How do you get his confidence back? Is this something that you think is now a habit or a problem, really? Or do you think this can be overcome? Bob, why don't you start for us? Okay.
Well, I think it's really not something new with Jaden Blue. It's something that has been hanging around him for a while, and at some point you bench him. At some point he has to learn what it feels like to hold that ball securely. And I'll tell you another thing. He could have got dinged on the play on the was it that fumble or the second one?
The second fumble where he hit the first play of the third quarter.
Yeah, he and I was really shocked at his lack of effort to try to get on the ball so I talked to people about it. In fact, Rod Baber said the only thing I can think of is that maybe he might have gotten kind of just dazed for a second, took a hit, and just one of those you just kind of can shake off and don't have any ill effects of it. It could have been that. Other than that, your effort should be such that I'm going to try to get back on this ball as so fast that these 110,000 people at this stadium didn't see me fumble it. It's like if I don't get in this ball, coach is going to have me carrying the ball around 24/7. It's that type of sense of urgency to get back on the ball. I was a little bit disappointed, and I'm hoping that some other guys, get a chance. I'm not saying put him out to pasture by any means. You can't destroy his confidence, but at the same time, Coach, I'm not smart enough to know when that is. When you say, okay, I got to pull the plug on this deal because he's costing us.
As you know, Coach, it's so hard. It's a tough call. It's very. I mean, the first thing I think that needed to happen. His butt's got to go to the bench. He went there and he didn't step back on the field, and I was glad to see that. I think they handled that game correctly. We just got to see, now what they do. And maybe, hey, Sark looks like a genius and Coach Choice looks like a genius now for running him 25 times last week, because maybe that is the reason why they're doing it, because they're testing, because he's got this tendency to lay the ball on the ground. So they've got to find out, does he still have that tendency? So maybe that's why he got 25 carries last week and got the bulk of the load this week in the first half. But very, very disappointing. Same thing you saw, Bob, when he didn't fight to get after that ball. You can't okey doke him now, You can't okey doke him anymore and play it off like it's not a fumble. There's instant replay. There's reviews. And so back in the day, you could kind of okey doke, that wasn't a fumble. You don't even go for it. Nowadays, you got to come back fighting for it and go get that thing. But very concerning. Trey Wisner, though, I thought ran his butt off. Jared Gibson's proven to be solid. Don't give up on that 2-quarterback system that I mentioned earlier.
What are you going to do? Brian's going to go draw it up in the sand this week.
I've got some plays drawn up right here.
Hey, the fumbles did reoccur. One of the things I thought was really good with Sark and with Jaden Blue, and I want to say this as a real positive. He went out and met with the media after the game. He did not hide. And one of the things Sark said on Monday was, look, Bijan Robinson fumbled in the first play of overtime against Texas Tech.
Yep.
Bijan Robinson didn't go hide after that game either. And so one of the things we're trying to teach kids around here is to be accountable and to be men. And so I thought that was actually as part of the process, right? Because you're trying to do you don't want them to drop the ball anymore, right? It is a problem that's reoccurred, but at least you're taking it in that direction, which I think is an overall positive. Okay, I've got some more questions for you guys as we get ready for OU. I want to hit on Quinn for sure, if y'all don't mind as well. But first, I want to say thank you to our sponsor. Each and every Lunch with Coach is brought to you by our friend Laura Baker at Keller Williams Realty. Visit her at Keller Williams Realty, the Andy Allen team. Laura at andyallenteam.com, 512-784-0505. The great thing about Laura, she knows Austin inside and out. She was at the tailgate on Saturday as well. She is a big-time Longhorn fan and is a great realtor as well. Again, she's a lifelong Austinite, so she knows the place as well as anybody. Guys, Quinn Ewers, now Sark tried on Monday to say, he's had no setbacks so far. I was told that he could have gone if the situation was dire on Saturday. No questions asked. So whether that's 70%, which is what came out in the news media, or he's even closer to 100 than we may be led to believe, what's going through your mind right now as your head coach, where you had a quarterback that was on a roll, then he had to sit 2 games or 2.5 games, really, right? As you get him ready now for Oklahoma. Bob or Bryan, who would like to go first?
I'll take it. I think it's not so much Quinn. I think he's game ready. He'll come back ready to go. Whether he's 70, I don't know if that's accurate. I bet he's better than that. But that leaves a pretty good shadow of doubt in Oklahoma's mind as to can he regain 30% over the next 2 weeks. So there's probably some games being played there. I'm not worried about Quinn at all. I think he's ready to go. He's got a lot of experience underneath his belt. What I'm more concerned about are the pre-snap penalties and bogging down. We did it last year. It hurt us. We've done it quite a bit this year. It's not acceptable to have those pre-snap penalties. It's just not, especially at a home game. So from an execution standpoint, the offense and being high octane and scoring a lot of points, to me, it's more about the offensive line, pre-snap penalties and things like that, more so than it is Quinn. Quinn's going to come back and he's going to be ready to rock and roll.
Well, what do you think about Quinn and his time off and now having to get ready for OU?
Yeah, I think he's in a really good place right now. And I don't know about you guys, I know we all love Arch. We feel like he deserves all the hype. But in my personal opinion, we're more effective and we're more efficient and we're in more of a groove on offense. It seems like Sark is more comfortable when he's calling plays with Quinn than he is with Arch. That's just my opinion. I don't know if there's anything to that. If it's the same plays, but Arch is going to a different level, a different read. He thinks he can get it in there when maybe Quinn's like, hey, I'm just going to keep our defense off the field, just keep moving the sticks. I don't know, but I would think it wouldn't be too hard for him to shake off the rust and, being a third-year starter and knowing that he's got a very capable backup. But I don't think that for a second he believes that anybody on that field house or anybody that has anything to say about the program has any doubt who the leader of that football team is.
Oh, I agree. I agree completely. It's interesting that you made that statement. Quinn's got a lot of game experience, and so managing a game is something that maybe Arch Manning doesn't have that experience like at this level. And I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, just because you hype up Arch Manning, that's not a downplay of Quinn Ewers, because
No.
they don't. Anybody mistakes that, it's not one or the other, right? These are both good quarterbacks and playing. I mean, Quinn was playing at a Heisman level before his exit. I mean, let's not forget that. All right, guys, other thoughts that y'all had on the game and things that y'all little peccadillos that y'all may want to pick out or talk about that were positive or negative from Saturday.
Well, I think, just piggybacking off what we just talked about, I don't think the key to this season is quarterback. We've got that. We know we've got that. The key is we got to establish the run. We got to start running football. And we didn't run the football in the first half with the flip, and we got to run the football. And we got to stop with the pre-snap penalties. And it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. If we're not running the football and we've got pre-snap penalties and we're turning the ball over, those are just three horrible recipes for not championship football. I'm not saying we're not going to win 9-10 games. We're not going to win a championship. Turning the ball over, having more turnovers than our opponent, having more pre-snap penalties than our opponent, and not running the ball real effectively. And so that's a little bit of a negative. And then the other probably negative I've got, I've said it from week 0, nobody's truly, I don't think, believed it, but the run defense is they're playing keep away from us. And I feel like people are running the ball against us, and Mississippi State ran the ball against us very effectively and kept it away from us. And, we know what's coming. We know who's coming. Mississippi State's probably the worst team we're playing in the SEC. And so we've got some dogs to fight 1 week at a time. And we've got to stop the run. We got to run the football. We got to take care of the football and not lose the turnover battle. And we got to stop with the pre-snap penalties.
Bob, what do you think about that, about the run? Because, I mean, you look at the total numbers, you look at the total numbers, it's 50 carries for 150, so it's 3 yards a pop. But they definitely played keep away in the first half effectively.
Yeah, they could have. And I don't know what it'd be if you take out the sacks, or whatever. But I feel the same way, Brian. I just felt like, why would they get away from that? They're getting 4 to 4.5 yards a pop, just moving us, And of course, it seemed like to me we started out in a dime look, and so we were a little bit soft, I think, just by alignment. But I just feel like that something there is just not quite where it needs to be yet.
I think did I see where their main back, he averaged 5 yards a carry, I believe.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the telltales. You look at the main back, and he's got 5 yards per carry, and he didn't really bust a long one. It's 10, 12 yards. And they had about 4 different guys have, again, we talked about this last week, 10 to 12 yards on a carry or so. So that's a lot when you're giving up 4 or 5 different guys having 10 plus yards on a running play. So I see it as a little bit of a concern, and especially knowing what's coming. I mean, people are going to run the football at us.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to play dime, I don't think, against some of these teams. They're going to have to let people challenge them. I was a little concerned about letting some guys get deep on them a couple times as well in the secondary. That's the first time that's really happened this year to a level where it would be a little concerning, because he had 2 full steps on Manny Muhammad down that left sideline. and just didn't reel it in. It was either a poor pass. On that run game, let me ask you all this. I mean, is that the recipe maybe to beat Texas? Try to run it right at them and keep them out of the end zone? I mean, like, I'll give you an example. Bryan, you talked about this. If Jeff Lebby and talked about how good his game plan is and everything, if Texas goes up 14-0 instead of the Jaden Blue fumble, Jeff Lebby's not running the ball as easily as he was before, and that would have got him completely out of his game plan right out of the gate. And so maybe then they're taking more risks in the passing game earlier. And so it's not part of this, and this is what I said on the post-game show. It was the first game this year I felt like Texas didn't play complementary football.
Yes.
Where the offense gets out and then, and look, the pass rush, if we want to talk about something positive, Texas has a pass rush.
I think you wrote something. I've read quite a bit of stuff. I think it was you, Bobby, that wrote it about that complimentary thing, that if we could have made it 14-0 there fairly early, we're going to start forcing them. They might have one more possession that they can see if they can play four corners, but they're not going to be able to play four corners for very long, because now we had another score on there. And once it gets 17-21, no, you got to go now. And so now that puts us in what you're talking about in your article. The pass rush is nasty. I mean, when you see it live, it's swarming. They're coming off the edge. They're coming up the middle. That pocket's just collapsing. They're engulfing. It's just like an avalanche on that quarterback. And then our coverage is, really good this year. Yeah, we gave up a couple where they got behind us, but overall, we're defending the pass. Not many yards after the catch, which is the key to me to the passing game. Is they throw it, they catch it, you tackle them. They throw it, they catch it, you tackle them, and not let them have those yards after the catch. So this year, the strength of our defense is just the opposite of what it was last year. I think we can get people in a must-passing situation, like Georgia got into the other night against Alabama. I think that we're good in that situation. We're good. Come on, throw it every down, spread us out. Whereas if somebody tries to get us in a phone booth and get 12 personnel, like a lot of these SEC teams are going to do, they're gonna try to slow that game down. And it's like the Ole Miss Kentucky game. Kentucky did what Kentucky does. They get it in a phone booth, they get it to the fourth quarter, and they go win it in the fourth quarter. And so that's where we've got to do our very, very best. Stop and run, don't turn the ball over, get some early points, and then play complementary football, just like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, really got to put some points on the board early. Bob, what do you think about that? You think that's the recipe for this Texas team to be a championship level team?
Well, I think we've now seen the blueprint to slow Texas down, and I think I think you're going to see more teams doing that. It just couldn't have worked out better for Jeff Lebby through three quarters. No. I mean, it was just in his wildest dreams. This is the only place that would have happened.
I got done after the game. I had a buddy of mine that knows Jeff really well, and I was talking to him, and he actually was wearing Mississippi State, and I'm like, that couldn't have gone any better for Mississippi State. That was the best possible case scenario, the way that game unfolded, and the way he was able to manage it. It just, we poured it on and played well into the third quarter and through the fourth quarter. But you're right, Bob. I mean, it could not have gone any more beautifully for Mississippi State.
Yeah. And we need a game like that to overcome some adversity, although it wasn't, against a top team. Overcoming adversity. Had Georgia been able to come back and win that game, that's overcoming some adversity right there.
28-0 down.
Yeah. I mean, that's overcoming adversity. But I want to also say this. It almost seems like our running game is kind of morphing into 2009. Bobby, you and I have had this conversation a couple of times, and I asked you a question. Who was the star running back in 2009 when we played for the national championship, the last national championship we played for? Well, it was Trey
Newton.
Well, Trey got hurt, and nobody can remember who the back. but we still made it all the way to the national championship. Now we don't have the luxury of just winning the Big 12 and going straight to the game. We've got to go through a gamut, conference and then, playoffs. So we're going to have to revive that running game. Unfortunately, we've been able to win without it being what we've been experiencing the last couple of years. And I hope that doesn't create a false sense of security that we don't. No, you're going to need it. And Bryan hit the nail on the head. You have to be able to run the ball in this conference. You have to be able to keep the ball away from the opponent. You just have to be able to just oppose your will upon the other team and move the sticks. And we have the guys to do it. I just hope we can hang on to the ball and find a back that's going to be,
Well, here's your problem too. I got to say this. It's really hard when you put yourself behind the chains to run the football.
Yeah.
I mean, if you, to Bryan's point, you have holdings or you have pre-snap penalties. It's different running the football when it's 1st and 10 and versus 1st and 15 now, or 1st and 20, right? You don't want to just give away a down thinking, oh, well, we're not going to pop anything for 10 plus. So it's just a different mindset. And I think that, again, is not, to y'all's point, complimentary football or whatever you want to, however you want to call that. Let me ask y'all this as we look at this and think about everything going on right now. Is Texas a top-ranked team still, in your opinion, even with the warts we saw on Saturday? Not necessarily number one overall, but do they belong in the top 5? And then do you think the things that did happen are ultimately fixable with focus, with some TLC by the coaching staff, and et cetera? Y'all, I certainly do, because y'all are talking about this past game. They still won by 22 points. It's not, Texas has real firepower. And that plus the pass rush, I think, could be the things that carry this team. Do y'all think this team is good enough, or do you have doubts in your head right now, like every coach has, by the way?
Well, I think just based on what we know currently with our injury situation, assuming that Quinn is coming back, I definitely think we're a top 3 team. I saw a little glitch in our armor, just some mistakes. And I think, Bob, were we all talking this morning on Coffee and Football about the way they call holding in the SEC?
Yeah.
Well, it's a big difference.
Yeah, it is. They are different. They are clearly more in tune with that than they ever were in the SEC. Bryan, what do you think about where Texas is overall, et cetera?
I definitely see us as a top 5 team, no doubt. We're very explosive, very powerful. Top 3, probably also. I agree with Bob. But I definitely see us as a top 5 team. We see some weaknesses from last Saturday, but are they fixable? Heck yes, they're fixable. We don't turn the ball over, number 1. Period. End of story. Win the turnover battle when we go play. And let's cut the pre-snap penalties down to a very, very minimum, 1 or 2 a game. That's acceptable. You're going to have 1 or 2, but we got to win the turnover battle. We got to cut the pre-snap penalties out. And then, we can continue we're physical enough that we can improve our run defense. And I think that's the key. So yes, we can improve on it. We're right there with any of those other 3 or 4 teams in the top 5, and I like our chances. I will say we saw the worst in the SEC Saturday. We're going to have probably 3 to 5 games this year in the SEC that we're going to have to win in the 4th quarter. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to go through this thing with 1 or 2 losses. We're going to have to play great football to go through this conference with 1 or 2 losses. Great football. And it starts against Oklahoma. We shouldn't have any problem getting up for them. And we fix this turnover deal. We fix these pre-snap penalties. I love how fast we are. I love how physical we are. I love how they're playing together. I love the talent level. I love the leadership. And so we're going to be right there.
Yeah, can't let Oklahoma hang around the rim, because you talked about turnovers, guys. That's what Oklahoma's specializing in this year. I mean, they're taking it away at a great rate right now. That is going to be a good one. We'll be back next week with you guys to preview the Sooners. That's I always love going to Dallas. I don't know about you two, but it's something about that game that gets me stirred up inside. Thank you to Bob Shipley and Bryan Erwin. Also, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Laura Baker over at Keller Williams Realty. They're in Austin, not just in Austin, but around the Central Texas area. She goes out to Georgetown, Round Rock, anywhere and all between. Call her at 512-784-0505. That's 512-784-0505, or reach out to her at laura@andyallenteam.com. All right, Bob, Bryan, I'll see you guys later. Bob, we'll see you on the winning drive on Thursday as well. Coaches, thank you all very much. And Texas 5-0 headed into the bye week.